Good evening. Thanks for joining us once again. My guest tonight is a man who says he is committed to the sustainable development of Ghana and Africa. What, in his estimation, are the challenges facing the continent, and how must we overcome them? Professor Andam, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Prof, you are the Vice Chancellor of the University of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Did I get it right?
I'm glad you got it right. The Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. They call it KNUST most of this time.
One of these acronyms again, KNUST. Yeah. It's not a very easy one to say, is it? KNUST.
Well, I think if you are pronouncing Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology for 10 times, then perhaps
you fall in love with KNUST.
That's right. It will allow you to do that.
Kwame Nkrumah University. Why Kwame Nkrumah? Kwame Nkrumah founded the university, obviously.
Well, it started as Kumasi College of Technology back in 1952. And Nkrumah, knowing the value of science and technology, quickly ensured that the institution will be transformed into a full-fledged university.
How many years ago?
We celebrated the 50th anniversary 3 years ago.
50 years ago, Kwame Nkrumah creates a tertiary institution for science and technology.
Almost 53 years now.
Do you think that it has made the impact that he sort of envisaged?
Actually, the act that set up the university, Act 80, talks about development, sustainable development of Africa. Even Ghana is left out. So our focus, our challenge, our mandate engulfs the total continent, as is typical of Kwame Nkrumah. He wanted to see the entire continent developed.
Some people say he should have concentrated on Ghana first.
Well, in the situation we find ourselves right now, and we found ourselves 50 years ago, it's impossible for just one country like Ghana to go along.
So you think his ideas is still relevant, this African platform thing?
Kwame Nkrumah is an irreplaceable inspirer. The vision that he had and what he was pursuing, if Africa leaves it behind, it cannot achieve the sustainable development that it wants. And I'm glad that on the continental stage, all these are becoming true.
They are beginning to appreciate the things that Kwame Nkrumah set out to do many years ago.
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
Why is he so far ahead of everybody else? It takes us all 50 years later. Now everybody's talking about Nkrumah. Why? Why now?
I think he got his acts right. He lived in the U.S. He saw the most powerful nation on earth.
Capitalist America.
That's right. How it was founded and how it was progressing in those days. And if there was any hope of Ghana and Africa catching up, then we better have to learn how the Americans had done it, how the Europeans had done it. So having the background information and knowledge and first-hand experience of how these systems worked, he was in no doubt at all about what should be the agenda for the development of his country in Africa.
So he wasn't this raving socialist who simply had no appreciation of what the capitalist world did and wanted to nationalize everything. Is that, am I right or wrong?
I think on the political scene, and we must remember that these were the Cold War era, on the political scene, he wanted to be associated with the majority of the underdeveloped world, who did not see America or the type of governing of America the way that.
But that was certainly not America, the underdeveloped world.
Underdeveloped world. So that's where a bit of socialism came in. That was the best way to develop the whole world. Of course, we have since known that communism and all that didn't work, didn't quite work. So that is another issue. But his vision, his economic vision for Africa and for Ghana, we should have pursued it, especially in context of my university. What he did at the time that he was overthrown in 65.
66.
Yes, by I'm referring. Yeah, by 65, he had established a university which had total capacity to develop Ghana at the time. He had built halls of residence which had bed spaces or rooms, about 2,000 rooms. But the actual population of the university was just over 1,000. So he could see that in 4 years' time, 5 years' time, he would be able to let this university take charge of the development of Ghana and Africa.
Are you happy with the way the university itself has performed over the years? I mean, in terms of the original vision? I mean, tertiary institutions are overcrowded and so on and so forth.
That is the reason. For 40 years, there was total neglect of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and to some extent, all the universities in Ghana.
Why?
Well, it is not cheap. Knowledge is not cheap, and you have to spend on it. Now, the government after government were just interested in carrying on with their various agenda, which we all now know what it was.
What we don't know. I don't know what that agenda is.
Well, to stay in power. That was important. To keep staying in power.
That was more of a priority.
I think if you go to study the governments that came after Kwame Nkrumah, each one would have been interested in perpetuating itself in power. And that was prime. To do this, you had to use the money to carry on some kind of development here and there. But it was not sustainable development.
Has that changed? Has that changed? Well, do you think the universities now are getting the resources they deserve?
The emergence of Get Fund has made a tremendous contribution. That the neglect of development that should have taken place on the campuses for the last 40 years is now being taken up.
Give me an example. Give me an example. What's happening at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology that represents change? You're in charge now. I know you've done some interesting things, I'm told. I mean, what is driving your plan there really? What are you most inclined and keen to change, Professor Andam?
Science and technology is the only vehicle with which we can develop Ghana and Africa. Now that science and technology, the capacity has been neglected for 40 years in terms of infrastructure, in terms of even the people, that is the lecturers to carry it. All this has been neglected for 40 years. So
So
my major hurdle was to bridge that gap, the gap that has been created in infrastructure and in providing the lectures. And this is what I've been doing for
4 years now.
3 years now.
3 years
I'm into the 4th year.
Are you succeeding?
Yes, we've made tremendous impact. First of all, with infrastructure itself, we have, as some say, about 25 projects going on for laboratories, for lecture theaters, for workshops, for offices. And then the last year or so, we had gone offshore to borrow money, $2 million to build a laboratory.
How are you going to pay that back?
Oh, we are credible. We'll pay it over 3 years. In fact, we paid the first year. We enter the second year, and the third year would have finished.
And you used it to build a laboratory?
The laboratory, telecommunications and mechatronics. That is the mobile telephones that everybody is using in Ghana. If it has to perform well, then the research, the study, everything has to be done from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And we have borrowed money to build a $3 million laboratory.
Does that mean that the practical side of things is being further strengthened? Is that correct?
That gives the students the hands-on experience that they need.
Apostle Safo, the famous Apostle Safo, in the news last week, I noticed the report where he talks about how he's got graduates from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and they can't do this and they can't do that. Doesn't that worry you? I mean, how is that possible?
It did not worry me, but it worried me. It did not worry me because he did not understand, or he does not understand what it's all about. And it does worry me because majority of Ghanaians also don't know. What is happening is that now he employed graduate engineers to use as artisans and technicians. Now that is wrong. If you were in England, first of all, he will be arrested. And many contractors will be arrested for using the wrong people. You see, we produce graduate engineers, and they need to spend 3 extra years.
Where? Doing what?
Practicing under qualified engineers before they can be used as corporate engineers. You imagine the world of medicine. If medicine was not controlled, the practice of medicine in Ghana, if it was not controlled by a law, an act, the country would have been in chaos. Anybody would do what he wanted in medicine. But that is not true. The world of engineering in Ghana is not controlled by any law. There is an engineering law that should be passed and it's been lingering in the sector Ministry of Works and Housing for years now. It's a challenge for Parliament and for all those who are concerned to pass the law.
So that when people are trained as engineers, they can go off and spend 3 years doing practical training before they
can begin to act.
Why? Why must the qualified, or maybe that's what we don't understand, qualified engineer is incapable of doing?
If he's capable, if he's qualified, then we have every confidence in him that he can perform. Now, a lot of contractors who are working out there are working there without qualified engineers, and that's why you see all the mess in the country.
When you say without qualified engineers, what do you mean? You mean with engineers?
When they come out as graduate engineers, we train the graduate engineers from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. After 4 years, they have the science, the background, the understanding, the conceptual, then to move forward. Now they have to spend another 3 years under qualified, what we call corporate engineers. After that, then they can perform. Now, this is not happening because there's no law restricting anybody from using any engineer.
How many engineers has the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology turned out since it was
We have produced altogether 44,000 graduates for the university.
For the university.
And half of them have been engineers.
Where are they?
Well, the Volta River Authority could not progress but for engineers from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Almost all engineers there. You go to Volta River Authority, that's VRA. You go to Electricity Corporation of Ghana. Turn to Valco, has been resuscitated by engineers trained. All the engineers who have resuscitated Valco recently have been engineers trained. You go to Ghana Telecoms, they are there. You come to the water, you come to the road section. All these major companies and corporate entities in Ghana are stuffed with engineers who have been trained from Kumasi.
Do they leave also in large numbers, like doctors?
Oh, thousands and thousands.
Most of them go away?
I've been touring universities of the world to find out where my people are, where my alumni are.
And you find them there.
And you go to America now, they are there. They are commanding areas, highs of the economy of America. You go.
Ghanaian engineers.
Ghanaian engineers.
What?
All of them.
What? How do you?
It's the brain drain. They can find better conditions of service. They can be paid better.
Will it not always be like that? I mean, there are always bigger countries.
We must intervene as a country.
How, sir?
We've started this in Kumasi by stopping the good brain, the first class and the second upper. That was last year. We have now enticed them to come and do research connected with industries in Ghana, which will be leading to award of PhD in 3-4 years' time. We employed or were able to entice 60 of them, and this year we enticed 85. So we did this by just deciding to pay them good stipend, that is scholarships, so that they would have no distraction whatsoever, but to pursue their...
do even more academic work?
No. Partner, you see, we're now going into a section where we are now partner with industry. the major industries
Is
of
it
Ghana.
working? You know, this thing, is it working? Where universities must partner with industry?
We have just started.
Okay.
And it's beginning to work. We have signed an agreement with Water River Authority. We signed an agreement, almost signing one with, in fact, today we should have signed one with GNPC and TOR, the thermal oil refineries. And all of them are coming on board. So when we've done that, then it means that they will now be able to support research, industrial research dedicated to the development of our country.
But it's really...
When our students go to America, they take the cream, they take the first-class students and put them in American universities to do exactly the same. And that is why all the development that is going on in America, in European universities and so on, that's why it's going on, because they are creaming the rest of underdevelopment world and use them for the development of their various countries. And we must now begin to do the same. So we have actually started. We have now started to ensure that we can at least retain a number of our good brains. And this is also going to help us. It means that in 3 years' time we'll be graduating about 60 PhDs who will now come on board as lecturers.
This is your idea?
That's my idea.
So when you go away, that idea goes?
I think if everybody sees the benefit of this, because we've been talking about no lecturers to teach. And suddenly we have 60 homegrown, brilliant lecturers. Another year we have 80. And so the whole question of so many students to one lecturer is going to stop. And anybody seeing the
ratios will get better?
Yes. The ratio is now about 35 students to a lecturer. It should be 8 to 10 for medicine. It should be 12 for engineering, but it's not happening because we don't have the right number of teachers. But this is all going to change very quickly for us. And anybody seeing this will copy for the rest of Ghana and Africa.
What about all those other disciplines? I mean, you know, we're talking about the university, we're talking about engineers. I mean, a lot of people I know from KNUST are not engineers. I mean, they have done
maybe your profession brings you in contact with social science.
Yeah.
So we've restructured the university into 6 huge colleges, and the College of what we call Art and Social Sciences is just one.
I see.
And there are 6 colleges.
What are the other 5? College of Arts and Social Sciences?
We have the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. We have the College of Architecture and Planning. We have the College of Art and Social Sciences, the College of Engineering, then we have the College of Health Sciences, and then we have the College of Science. So the social sciences is just one of the 6. Altogether, the percentage, there will be about 25%.
And then
that is necessary. It's necessary for us to have core liberal arts, even to train engineers. They need to have core liberal arts. And this is what we've done at the moment.
What is that? What do you mean core liberal arts to train engineers?
So they can communicate with the rest of the world.
What are thinking, you mean? You're talking about?
Yes, they should be what I call total education. If you train an engineer and he's not entrepreneurial, he cannot communicate, you've provided a disaster for the nation. We've done that in the past, so we've corrected that quickly to build the right core liberal arts. When we've done that, then we can now concentrate on the science and technology.
So everybody does that? Everybody goes through that training?
Yeah, well, the first thing we put in place recently is to make sure that every student who comes on board, whom we register, does something what we call literature in English. So we give him 1 year to top up his vocabulary in literature.
That's new.
That's very new. Just to make sure that at least he has some added vocabulary now to communicate with the rest of society.
And they're happy to do that.
They're very happy to do that. We also have ensured that the body with which you are going to work is also rightly exercised, so we've introduced sports and exercise science.
Why is that so important, sports?
Well, imagine the leaders of Ghana for tomorrow. They come out and every morning they are exercising their bodies. The rest of Ghana will know that it is important that we take exercises seriously.
So you've made that a subject, or is that what you mean?
What we've actually made it, we call it a subject which now can give you elective. It can give you credit. So you'll be a student of medicine, all right, but because you've registered for to know how to play tennis or anything athletics.
Taekwondo
is one of it.
Do you do Taekwondo yourself or something?
No. Mine is tennis and athletics. Now, because you do this, it actually credits your work. So although you're a student of medicine, because you're learning to play tennis or advanced tennis, you actually credit it. It's a whole subject which is going to help you to do it. It means that the nation now can look up to the universities for their sportsmen and women, which is not happening.
But apart from that, I mean, I would have thought, because that also one of the good things about going through this sort of thing physically is that it also conditions us to overcome challenges, I would imagine, because it's very direct there, isn't it? In sports, the challenge is there.
Sports and exercises, they have a lot of benefit for the body, for ourselves. And to make us in shape, put us in shape to do the work that we need to do every day, every morning. And imagine the rest of Ghana was doing that. There'll be very few hospital bills for us.
I would imagine.
And this nation will move forward. So a lot of innovation has come on board. It's all the platform, the foundation for us to perform properly in science and technology, in applying science and technology for the total development of our country. We've also brought on board nearly 20 new programs, which is looking at the total industry, the economy of Ghana. Where we don't have, we brought them in. So we're actually now prepared to lead Ghana to become an emerging economy.
Really?
To prepare, we provided the capacity. See, we are now about 20,000, 21,000, and we want to move up to about 40,000 student population. When we've done that, it means we now have, we are in a position to graduate, about 10,000 graduates, well qualified, well seasoned, to take up the challenge of development.
You want to take on more students? Do you have the capacity?
At the moment, we are bridging the gap. I told you that at the time that Kwame Nkrumah was removed, he had provided 2,000 rooms. That is all we have now.
Hasn't changed at all?
No, so we have bed spaces of 8,000. That is, we are putting 4 students in each of those rooms. And we have now begun, after we solved the laboratory and the lecture theaters, we are now beginning to expand the infrastructure for residential accommodation for students as well. So this should now be done strategically, and we've got our strategic plan. It should be done strategically so that in about 10 years, we'll now reach a capacity of about 40,000 students for this nation.
Professor Andam, just, I believe that you have said in the past that perhaps we should relocate the capital of Ghana somewhere around Shama. Why is that? Why is that?
Well, Accra is sited and is sitting on a time bomb.
Accra?
Yes. There are 2 major, what we call the faults. There's one line...
Do you have earthquakes?
Yes, well, faults are dislocations in the earth structure. And a lot of energies build along it. And those energies, when they are prime, then it erupts. And that's what we have.
So Accra is a dangerous place to be.
It's not the best place to site a capital. And because of this, now I remember nearly 70 years ago.
No, but before you go on, I don't understand you. You say it's not the best place to site a capital. People would live here anyway, even if it wasn't the capital. So they would still be victims of
well, those who will be living here, that's fine. We've got to a stage where there are nearly 4 million people living
in Accra.
So it's the numbers. Now, Accra will continue to grow. So why don't you build and what I call the administrative capital? That administrative capital is the one that Nigeria has done that. You know,
is that Abuja?
Abuja, they've done that. And we need to do something like that.
What's the advantage of that, apart from the fact that
advantage is in that we now have the opportunity to develop a new capital from scratch. So the planning, the engineering, everything, we can get it right.
The hawkers won't come back to the new capital.
Accra is what I call the engineer's nightmare. Electricity, water, sanitation, everything is in total disaster.
Why? Because of
because it was not planned.
Accra wasn't planned?
No, you see, the population dictates the planning, the growth of the city. You go out in the outskirts and you find so much development going on. Those places are not planned. There are no utilities, there's no sanitation, nothing is planned. And this will continue. So we have to check that indisciplined
we should just by starting anew.
Starting what I call administrative capital. And you see, if you build it on the Pra River, it would be one of the most beautiful cities.
That's why you chose Shama, so you can have the...
That's right, because we have only 3 rivers. We have the Volta, we have the Pra, we have the Ankobra. These are the only credible rivers which we can build capital on. But if you site it on Pra, first of all, it's not too close to any neighboring country, as Volta would be, or Ankobra would be close to other countries. Then you also have rainfall. It's plenty. And
what's good about that?
Well, it means that if you're in Accra, you have to struggle at some stage to water your gardens and greenery. If you are in a place where there's rainfall all the time, then you don't need to. You are not begging for water. Rain will be coming all the time, and therefore you have. And you see, if there's water, it means that providing water for drinking also doesn't become.
So all those challenges would be better.
There's so much advantage in there. Some people thought that you were talking about the center of gravity of Ghana, so go and place it in Kintampo. No, that's not the issue. The issue is you must have facilities which can facilitate the growth of the new city, and that's why I proposed the Pra River as the right place to site the capital.
Where else could be another competitive place for the capital of Accra other than the western region and the Pra River area? Where would you? Or that's your real choice?
I think if the second choice would be say on the Volta. The third choice would be water is important. The third choice would be on Ankobra. And all these are unfortunately very close to they are not within the central part of Ghana. So really that's why Pra becomes number one.
Prof, you're a scientist. Can I describe you as a scientist?
I'm a structural engineer, civil structural engineer, yes. Which means that I also spent 4 years at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Then I went out and I worked with what then was called the State Construction Corporation. Now, I spent 4 years before I could call myself a graduate engineer, working under qualified corporate engineers. The first job I did was to construct the Kukurentumi-Apedja Road. Part of that road has now become the Accra, the Bunsu, the diversion, the new diversion now. Part of that road is my road. I constructed that back in 1972. My second major project was to construct the Dabala-Sogwe Road, which again has become a major route for all our citizens who come from the Kita and that area. And I built a very interesting bridge at Sogwe on a lagoon. It was the second bridge in Ghana that had been founded on piles.
So then you did that and went back into,
After I had gained my capacity to be called an engineer, then I went to again scholarship to University of Newcastle on Town, and I did straightforward PhD. I didn't even do master's. They got me to do the PhD directly, and when I had done that, then they wanted to retain me, so I lectured for almost 1.5 years in the University of Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK, and then I saw that my country was burning. This was back in 1980. Ghana was virtually on fire.
That's what
everybody was running out. When I said I would decide to go back to my country,
everybody was running out, and you were running in.
And I came in, and everybody thought I was mad. Why were you earning such good salary as a lecturer in the University?
But we need that, don't we? That's what we need. That kind of thing.
That the brain drain that I'm now stopping that.
No, I mean, we need people coming back. I mean, feeling that they could come and like
we're going about it in another way. I've gone back to universities in the US and got all our alumni who are now professors there. And starting from January 2006, they come in, at least about 10 to 15 of them are coming to lecture at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology for a period up to about 1 month.
Fantastic. You're bringing them back gradually.
And they are very excited to be part of the developmental plan of our nation.
You must be as well, eh?
Well, that's what we call the brain gain.
Brain gain.
So once our experts who are elsewhere see that they are now part of the development agenda, this country can move forward. I think the country should now have a lot of faith in the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and spend money there. We've not spent any money in these countries, in these areas at all. What we've been doing is cosmetic.
Yeah, so we should invest in education.
We should invest in education. We should invest in research. Yeah. And then we'll be on the path to what we call the emerging economy.
I thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.